Always a joy for me to try to answer your questions. They come into me by email, text, and by YouTube. And there was a question that came to me recently because we're in the middle of this coronavirus. Let me read the question: how to balance faith and honoring pandemic regulations? That's a great question. And I never want people to take lightly the situation our nation is in. I know we've had pandemics before, but in every pandemic, there has been means by which that pandemic has been able to be curbed. Let me give you a good example of what I'm talking about. You know, there was that Spanish flu that took place in 1918 that killed, 50 million people. It was quite a dramatic thing that happened. That's one of the estimates. Some have even estimated more than that. In the United States, it affected our nation dramatically, and they really didn't know how to handle it. Well, I'll tell you the story of two cities. One city was Philadelphia, the other city was St. Louis. What happened in Philadelphia is they had a particular parade scheduled, and the health department of that particular city said, look, this isn't the Spanish flu, this is just a regular flu. And so what they did is they went ahead with this parade. And when they went ahead with this parade, there were thousands and thousands of people in that parade. Well, the tragedy of it was that immediately after that parade, goodness, over 1,000 people died, got the sickness and died. And a horrible pandemic swept through Philadelphia. It was extremely, extremely tragic. What was interesting, however, is that the city of St. Louis had an isolation policy during this time. And literally what happened in Philadelphia was 5 times worse than what happened in St. Louis. And it was only because of the isolation policy. So I'm fully aware of the isolation policies, and we as a church are trying to, as much as we can, follow every rule. That's why we have a drive-in church, so everybody's limited in space to their car. They don't have to feel like they got to hold hands with anybody or be near anybody. They're in with their family in their car, and that's why we do that. And we're doing that until this is all lifted. We as a church, even with my staff, we try to have a 6-foot rule between us when we're having meetings, and we're attempting to have only 10 people at a time together. So that's very, very important. And the reason it's important is because we don't want to presume on God. You know, the devil would love to destroy people by presumption. Remember, one of the temptations is when Satan said to Jesus, why don't you jump off this cliff? And then he quotes the scripture, the angels will take charge over you. And Jesus said, look, don't tempt the Lord thy God. It's important for us to be sensitive. Now you say, well, Pastor, how about operating in faith? Well, here's how we operate in faith. Paul writes these words to Timothy in 1 Timothy 1:7 when he says, God's not given us a spirit of fear. It's a word that's used there in the Greek, timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Listen, God is going to give you a sound mind during this time. You're not going to be manipulated by fear. The power of God is operating in you. And what I've noticed is that when you have that sense about you, it's not a cockiness, it's not an arrogance. You're going to be sensitive to the needs of the community around you. But I tell you what does happen. I just had one of my pastors mention to me even today about the fact that in the midst of this coronavirus, he's been able to reach out to his neighbors and minister to them through texts and phone calls and different things. And you know what was amazing to me is that we as believers, we express our faith in realizing that we're here at this time to reach and out to others in their need and to help them and to bless them. And that is our call. That is our concern. So we don't operate in fear. We operate in faith. We're here. We're going to be used by God. But we're not going to be presumptuous. And we're going to attempt in every way possible to be able to fulfill the mandates that have been given us for the protection of others.
Thank you so much for joining us for Ask the Pastor. If you have any questions that you would like Dr. Marocco to answer, please leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time we have a new video. God bless you.